Inconceivable. You keep using the word. I don't think it is what you think it is.
Some Giant fans, well, they don't know what that word is because it's inconceivable that we could have missed on Daniel Jones. This is Tim, this is New York Giants Straight Talk, powered by Online, Big Blue LLC. You know what? This is gonna be the last Daniel Jones video because you know what? Sometimes you just can't keep beating a dead horse. It is what it is. I just love it that I look on Twitter now and all these people that hate me, or used to hate me, are now sending me messages. And I think it's great that a lot of people are doing that. And I don't ask them to do it, and I don't ask for validation. But I just think it's wonderful that they're like, you were right. You've been right for 4 years. Everything that you have said for 4 years has been right. And then they send me videos I did like 3 years ago. And they're like, everything you said 3 years ago is still happening now. We talked about it yesterday, and Zach Attack sent me the video on the live stream when I talked about Daniel Jones and red striping and how if you watch the top of his helmet, it never moves when he goes downfield. He locks onto a target. That red stripe just locks onto a target. But before we get into that, let's talk about the savior of the New York Giants, the guy that's coming in here to make everything all better on the offensive line. It's Justin Pugh. We're bringing him in at 30-something years old after multitudes of injuries, after years away, signing him to the practice squad. Everything's going to be fine now because of the fact that we have Justin Pugh. We don't need to worry about anything else.
You were serious about that?
Of course I'm not serious about that. Anyone that's expecting Justin Pugh to come in here and solidify this line, you're freaking crazy. You're a nut. He's not coming to solidify the line. He's coming in to be a piece for the line. He is not going to fix the Evan Neal issues. He's not going to fix the fact that Evan Neal has issues with the outside speed rush, which every scouting report that you ever looked at in reference to when he came into the draft mentioned that he was going to have problems with the outside speed rush. That's not going to fix it. It's not going to make Lewinsky any better. It's not going to make Bredesen any better. It's not going to help the shoulder injury of JMS. It's not going to help the other two rookies, our second-year players, come in and play better. It is what it is. It's a depth signing. It's a piece signing. If he comes in and starts immediately, then our offensive line is more screwed up than I thought. And I'm not going to sit there and blame Bobby Johnson. I'm going to sit there and blame Joe Shane and his staff for overestimating the value of their offensive line. Once again, like I said on the stream, it's very Judgian. Joe Judge and Dave Gettleman did the same thing. We got all the, and I love it because you still have Shane Lemieux and Matt from Connecticut as holdovers from that regime. And they did the same thing. They overestimated the value of their line, and the Giants paid for it. But then again, a lot of the problems on Monday were predicated on the issues the offensive line were having, but it was also the issues of the quarterback. And I have to say something. I saw some videos and some people sent me some things about people being upset. And I love it because we're such a kinder, gentler society now. I remember getting grabbed by my face mask, just like you see in the movies back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and being pulled around by a coach, being yelled at, being called every name in the book, and you were fine with it. But Brian Daboll flicked the iPad toward Daniel Jones. And people are like, how can you show him up like that? How can you disrespect Daniel Jones like that? Oh, real easy. He just threw an interception there, went back 97 yards for a touchdown to a rookie, and took a 14-3 game and made it 21-3 and cost us the game. Yeah, that's how you do it because he misread it and he didn't even look at Waller and he didn't even throw the ball to Waller. But hey, don't throw electronic devices at Daniel Jones. It might hurt his sensibility. One of the things that really bothered me about that interception was when Daniel Jones came off the field. He didn't even look at Brian Daboll. He actually, when Brian Daboll started talking to him, Daniel Jones looked away. He didn't. People talk about the fire, the vinegar, all the piss and vinegar and all that he had in Arizona when he scored that touchdown and his screaming and his yelling and all that passion. Where was that when he came off the field? Brian Daboll's walking up to him trying to talk to him about what he just did. Daniel Jones turns his head the other way and walks towards the sideline. Walks towards the bench. Why is no one talking about that? That he just basically threw the game away And he's going to disrespect his coach that way by walking the other way and then not even looking at his head coach. That's a problem. That's an issue. That's not taking responsibility for what you just did. Could you imagine Phil Simms doing that to Bill Parcells? I will tell you this. There were times in the career of both Simms and Parcells and Simms both talk about it, where these two went after each other. They went after each other on the sidelines because Phil Simms had anger. He had passion. He was so into the game that he would yell at his own head coach. And then he would sit there a couple minutes later and say, I just can't believe I did that. Where this head coach understood that Phil Simms was a man and he could yell at him. And it's not anything personal, but if you make a mistake, you're going to get it pointed out. And Bill Parcells didn't tolerate mistakes. But it wasn't this kinder, gentler thing. And Parcells and Simms talk about it all the time. There was a story once with, I think it was Phil Simms. I believe it was Phil Simms. And this was going back in the early 2000s. He told this story that Parcells would tell players before practices, and he would tell them, listen, I'm going to ride your ass today. I'm going to point you out. I'm going to ride your ass. I'm going to yell at you. I'm going to do all this because I know you can take it, but I want to make a point to the other players on the team. And they understood that, and they took it like a man, and it is what it was. It was what it was. We are who they thought they were. They were. But at the end of the day, Daniel Jones, when he just came off the sideline dejected, walked past his head coach, turned his head the other way, didn't even look at him, and then went to the bench. And people are talking about the fact that it's disrespectful that Brian Dable tossed an iPad or tossed a Kindle or whatever the hell it was, the pad, somewhat near Daniel Jones. And it was more of a flick, but how can we disrespect him like that and show him up like that? How can a quarterback who now makes $40 million a year, sign $160 million, still make the same mistakes he's making in year 5 that he made in year 1 and 2? But we don't want to talk about that. Because if we talk about that, that's all it is. We're talking about nonsense. We're talking about someone's feelings. You know what my feelings are? My feelings are I'm tired of being a season ticket holder again already in only game 2, where we've yet to score a touchdown, and we've been outscored 64-3. That's what I have a problem with. That's what I think we need. That's what we need. That's what we need to discuss. And I have a problem when someone like, Devin Witherspoon basically comes out and says stuff like this about your starting quarterback.
You guys sacked Daniel Jones 11 times. What were you hearing and seeing out there from them while that was going on?
No, we were just trusting the game plan the coach laid out for us. We knew he liked to stare down his first target. So he had his back turned. A lot of guys just win their one-on-one matchups up front, man. Shout out to our D-line.
He had his back turned to one-on-one matchups. He likes to stare down his first target. This is coming from Devin Witherspoon, the rookie corner for the Seattle Seahawks, who Daniel Jones made a household name. But listen to what he's saying. He stares down his first receiver, and he basically turns his back to one-on-one matchups. So we weren't overly concerned about it. And then you get into Brian Dable, the Brian Dable press conference yesterday. So let's listen to let's listen to what Brian Dable said at one point. So I thought this was telling as well. Let me see. Do we have the Brian Dable clip? Yes, we do have the Brian Dable clip. Here we go.
Frustration. Waller was not happy after the game. You know, I think he had one target in the first half. How do you get your key playmakers involved, even in a game that, might be going south, but I would think you still want Waller to be part of whatever this is.
Yeah, I'd say that there was play calls for Darren, but certainly you can do a better job of that. I'd say there was a number of them that we just, couldn't get to, whether it was the progression, whether it was the pressure, whether it was the read. But
whether it was the progression, which was the first thing he said, then the pressure, then the read. So 2 out of those 3 things has nothing to do with Daniel Jones being under duress. It has to do with the read, the progression. The progression is how your quarterback sees the field. That's how he sees the field and his progression. But again, we don't want to talk about, certain people don't want to talk about that. Certain people just kind of want to just pass it on and just say, hey, you know what? It is what it is. Then I love it on the 3rd and 11, late in the first half, when Babel said there was a miscommunication. He says to Jones, there was a miscommunication. He wanted a pass. Now, people are reading Daniel Jones's lips. I think it's funny. I thought, and I love it because it actually, if you kind of look at what he's saying, I thought, don't throw it. That's what Daniel Jones said. You're the quarterback. You're supposed to throw the ball. I know this may be shocking to you, but actually sending the ball more than 3 yards just throwing a 3-yard out on a 3rd and 8 is not going to get you the first down. It's the progression. I just love it. It's the progression. And Dan Orlovsky, former quarterback, he's been getting a lot of crap as well. Not a lot of crap. He's getting some crap from some certain Giant fans because of the fact that he's pointed out multitudes of things in reference to how Daniel Jones does not have the ability to understand or change his line shifts or to change things at the line. I've been saying that now for, I've been saying that for 3 years now. And he pointed out a specific play where he was basically showing 5 men at the line and how a rookie should be able to decipher what to do on that play. But you have a guy getting $160 million in year 4 that a former quarterback and an analyst is saying is making rookie mistakes, that he's not seeing the field. And we talked about this. We've talked about this for going on 4 years now. We've talked about this, how he doesn't see the field, how he, and I don't know how many videos we've done and how many live streams we talked about this. It's okay to go up to the line if you're a professional quarterback and audible out of a play. If you see 8 in the box, 9 in the box, you see one-on-one matchup, and you have a feeling it's going to be a blitz and you're calling a run, you could check out of that play to a pass. And vice versa. If you're seeing the defense laying back and seeing huge cushions off the wide receiver, and you're seeing the safeties playing deep, and you look at a 4-man rush, and it's like second or first down, you can check out of the play and call a run. And then I love it because somebody was saying, well, Dable was saying he doesn't call the line shifts. That's the center's responsibility. Center cannot see anything beyond the guy in front of him. And we talked about this. Eli Manning, God bless his soul, would run that damn play clock down to 5 seconds before, 4 seconds, 3 seconds. And you're always like, oh my God, we're going to get another delay, a penalty, because he was busy calling out the mic, making his line shifts, moving people in the right position, doing what needed to be done. And this is year 5. And I remember doing videos talking about the fact that I did not expect Daniel Jones in year 1 and 2 to do the things that Eli Manning did towards the end, the latter half of his career, the last 7-8 years of his career, because he did not have the experience. And in that first year, we've talked about this before, Saquon Barkley had his best rushing games with Eli Manning under center, because Eli Manning understood where to put Barkley and the line and everyone else positionally to have Barkley be successful. It's amazing that Barkley caught 70-plus passes that first year with Eli Manning, and now all of a sudden can't catch the ball. Every year his catch total goes down. Eli Manning understood, I have to get Barkley in space. So I'm going to do the things that I need to do at the line to make the adjustments to get Barkley in space so he can turn around and make the plays. Barkley didn't all of a sudden forget how to catch the ball. You have a quarterback that's not putting him in a position to make the plays. How many times have we watched Daniel Jones throw his wide receivers into contact? Pointed out the Carolina preseason game. He almost got Waller killed because he didn't see the trailer right above Waller. He missed them completely. There are multiple times, I fear for Wan'Dale Robinson because I think Wan'Dale's got a problem protecting himself on the field. I fear for Wan'Dale Robinson because there was like 3 occasions that Daniel Jones threw him into contact. Throwing the ball is also about anticipation. You need to anticipate the route. You need to anticipate where your guy is going to go. Sometimes you need to throw to a spot on the field and anticipate your wide receivers going there because you are going to help him create separation so he doesn't have the DB hanging all over him. Eli Manning was a master at that. And if you want to talk about how sometimes it works and doesn't work, go back to that Thursday night game in Chicago years ago with Reuben Randall, and Eli Manning threw 3 first quarter interceptions, and all the plays were Reuben Randall's fault because he ran the wrong route, and Eli Manning threw it to a spot. Daniel Jones doesn't do that. What he does is he throws to the wide receiver. And people are going to be like, well, Tim, you're supposed to throw to the wide receiver. Yes, you are supposed to throw to the wide receiver, but you have to create a lane. You have to create a passing window. You have to create anticipation so the wide receiver, you can hit the wide receiver in stride as he's breaking out of his route. You don't just throw it to the body. And that's what Eli Manning does to the wide receiver. If the wide receiver is running a play, he throws it to the wide receiver's body. So basically, he's just looking at the guy as a target. He's not looking at the other aspects of the game. We talked about ball placement a million times. People talked about how well his ball placement was in training camp. Oh my God, his ball placement was awesome in training camp. Best ball placement I've ever seen. He's really improved on that. And I kept saying, you know what? It looks great against the all shorts team. What's going to happen when you're actually against competition and you're actually against guys that are going to hit people? He throws that one pass to Jalen Hyatt in stride. He throws it to a spot. He doesn't throw it to Hyatt because he looked like, again, he was throwing it to Hyatt. He throws it 3 yards in front of Hyatt, hits him in stride. That's a touchdown. That the Darren Slayton play that he made a spectacular catch but was out of bounds in the end zone. He throws the ball. If he throws the ball again to a spot over his inside shoulder, not his outside shoulder, that's a touchdown. He looks up the field and throws the ball to Waller in the end zone. That's a touchdown instead of trying to force it and try to force a bad throw, make a bad read. Listen, every read is not going to be perfect. I'll tell you that right now. Every read by Eli Manning in year 10 sometimes would make head scratchers. But he would come off the field or he would get in the interview and he would tell you, well, I thought they were in this formation. I thought the safety was going to do this. I thought this and this and this and this and this and this, and this is what happened. You watch Daniel Jones, it looks like he just comes off the field like, yeah, okay. Well, not really sure what happened there. For a guy that's supposed to be so intelligent, and I'm not questioning his everyday intelligence. I'm questioning his football IQ. I have known and played with players that were the most intelligent people you would ever meet off the field. You know, they could sit there and tell you everything about anything, but you put them on the field and they didn't understand the nuances of the game and what needed to be done because they didn't have a feel for the game. And that's what Daniel Jones, if you look at, doesn't have. Going into year 5, and I can't believe we're talking about this. This is year 5. He still doesn't have a feel for the game. He still has zero anticipation. He still has zero pocket presence. He doesn't sense pressure whatsoever. He has no feel for the game. And someone said to me, well, he's very robotic. He's not very robotic because you know what? A robot can learn. That's why we have artificial intelligence. You can't teach instinct. You can't teach the feel. Look at Eli Manning. Not really. Phil Simms was a bad example because Phil Simms would hang in that pocket and get demolished and make a throw. Eli Manning, though, especially towards the last 7 years of his career, would go down at times like he was shot because he would sense the blindside pressure and instead of taking the big hit, would just fall down. And the guy would go over his head. because he anticipated it. Eli Manning had the worst offensive line in the entire NFL in 2011 when the Giants won the Super Bowl, and he was only sacked 28 times. Why? Because even though he would take the hit, he would still deliver the pass and get the ball out because he anticipated and he had the feel for the pocket. Eli Manning, his rookie year in 2004, the Giants had Kurt Warner, that starting quarterback, those first games. Those first 8 games or 9 games. Kurt Warner had a plethora of sacks. Eli Manning came in, a rookie came in, and took half the amount of sacks that Kurt Warner took. The line didn't get any better. The wide receivers didn't get any better. The quarterback had anticipation, had a pocket presence. Even as a rookie, you could see that Eli Manning had an instinct for the game, a feel for the pocket, a feel of the presence. See, we are talking about feelings. I love people. There's people on Twitter that are trying. I love because they try to get under your skin. And they say stupid things, and I sometimes respond. Sometimes I probably shouldn't. I sometimes do, and I'm going to stop doing that. But I just love this one guy. He's a freaking idiot, and he's like, he's just a blowhard. He wants to hear himself talk. Yeah, so what I do? That's why I have a podcast. But you try to say stupid things to me online, it's not going to get under my skin. These shoulders are broad. This skin is thick. I've been stabbed. I've been shot at. I lived in places in this world that people, when I tell them, we're like, oh my God, you used to live there? I've had things happen to me in my life that will ever change for me, but maybe the person that I am. So someone on Twitter saying something, you're not going to offend me. You're not going to bother me. I think it's great. I love it. I love it that I occupy such tiny spaces in people's minds because there's only tiny spaces available. So keep it up. You keep doing it, just makes me more popular on Twitter and I get more views. So I think it's awesome. So thank you. I should thank you. Thank you, Kurt. I appreciate it. Can all this be fixed? No. This is what it is. Brian Daboll took a bad quarterback and made him okay. Brian Daboll has Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky had his moments. Took the Bears to the playoffs. I think he even threw for over 4,000 yards one year. But everyone in the league knew what he was. When you have two opponents talking trash about your $160 million quarterback saying we knew, San Francisco came out and said we knew what he was going to do. We knew where he was going to go with the ball, and we knew what he wasn't going to do. When the league understands, listen, just pressure Daniel Jones, because now that internal clock in his head is speeding up so much that even when there isn't pressure, he's sensing pressure. It's a David Carr moment. He is sensing pressure at times that isn't there. We've talked about the fact that James and I, that at one point in time, we're watching Wan'Dale Robinson down the field doing jumping jacks, trying to get the attention to Daniel Jones, who is staring right at him to get him to throw the ball. We talk about the fact that at one point in time, Jalen Hyatt broke past his defender. He got past the safety. The safety came up because it looked like Daniel Jones was going to run, and he is sitting on the 20-yard line alone. And Daniel Jones didn't even look his way. And that's to Witherspoon's point. He locks onto his target, and we knew he wasn't looking at one-on-one matchups. Daniel Jones will have his moments. Daniel Jones will have his 300, 400-yard games. Daniel Jones will have that thing that will turn people around and say, oh, we can salvage this. He's going to have those moments. But then he's going to have the moments where you just look at him like he is not a starting NFL quarterback. And our problem is this. Those good moments are going to be far outweighed by those bad moments. And that's what you need to remember. That's what you need to look at. Joe Schoen hooked it. We've talked about this. Joe Schoen hooked his card up to Daniel Jones and said, this is my guy. And the moment Daniel Jones inked that contract, he was no longer a Dave Gettleman guy. He is now a Shane guy. He is now a Daboll guy because you put all your faith into him because you went 9-7-1. Let's not forget how the second half of the season finished. Let's not forget about the fact that potentially we could have lost 4 of those games if it wasn't for penalties, lucky bounces, and certain calls. And you put all your faith in the fact that he got us to the playoffs. He beat one of the worst defenses I've seen in the playoffs since 1976, but then got demolished. Everyone talks about he's 1-3. Technically, he's 1-4 if you go back to the Philadelphia game and has had 5 bad games in a row and had 2 good quarters against an Arizona team who stopped blitzing, went to a Tampa 2 coverage because they were trying to sit on the clock. But we don't want to talk about any of that. Don't want to talk about that. Can it be fixed? No. It's time to move on. And I can say that and people are always like, you say stuff with all certainty all the time. Yeah, I'm pretty certain about this. I was pretty certain about this last year. I was pretty certain about it the year before. I'm not like certain people. I'm not going to change with the prevailing winds because something's going well. When I look at a quarterback and I see something average, Daniel Jones last year had an average season. And you know what the thing is? We've talked about this. Justin Fields ran for more yards than Daniel Jones, threw for more touchdown passes. Daniel Jones had more total offense than Daniel Jones, but was on a 4-win team, and somehow he sucked compared to Giant fans. And Daniel Jones was so much better. Arguably had the worst offensive line. Justin Fields had the worst wide receiving core, but somehow he was terrible and Daniel Jones is awesome. It's the perception of where you live and what bubble you're living in. And I don't want to burst the bubble for people, but we need to start preparing for life after Daniel Jones. Could you imagine the fact that you could be going into year 6 with Daniel Jones and he's still making the same rookie mistakes that he's making as a 6-year veteran? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine any other team? If this was any other team in the league and you weren't in the Giant bubble and you were watching this to 31 other teams, you would be like, this is crazy. They need to get rid of this guy. I'm not saying Daniel Jones isn't going to go out and throw for 300 yards in Miami because you know what? He does well in nice weather, in the domes where everything's perfect. I don't think he's going to. I think the defense is going to kill him. And we got other problems besides Daniel Jones on the offensive line. We got a lot of other problems. It's not all just Daniel Jones. But do I think we're going to be 1-5 after Buffalo? There was a guy back in the 90s. I got a feeling the Buffalo's going to the Super Bowl. There was a player in the Buffalo Bills that used to sing that. I can't remember his name. Someone will tell me in the chat. But you're going to be 1-5. You're going to be, there's like 5 good quarterbacks, good quarterback prospects coming out next year, maybe 6. And there's probably 4 teams, not counting the Giants, that are probably looking at quarterbacks. You know, you're definitely looking at Atlanta. Tampa's probably looking at a quarterback as well. You figure the Giants are probably going to be looking into the quarterback arena. And there's 2 other teams. I can't think of them off the top of my head right now. That are probably going to be looking at quarterbacks. The Giants may be worse than all of them, though. Hopefully Dable can turn this around because you know what? Dable, for the offensive genius he is, he took a bad quarterback and made him okay, and the Giant fan base went crazy. I remember, especially during the doo-doo offensive coordinator era, Daniel Jones, Eli Manning would throw for almost 5,000 yards, 34 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and Giant fans say, well, he had a bad season. Daniel Jones throws for 3,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, and he's the Messiah. This video went a lot longer than I anticipated. But can we fix it? No. See, the problem is, if I would have just said that, it would have been a really short video. But I needed to get this all off my chest. I just needed to ramble. And I appreciate everyone listening, looking out. I appreciate everyone who hung out on the stream yesterday. That was a lot of fun. Big shout out to James Williams. I appreciate all the people leaving great comments for me on Twitter for support and at YouTube and all that. That's greatly appreciated as always, guys. Because you know what? Maybe we are a cult. And maybe that's not a bad thing. And I'm glad. If we are a cult, I'm glad. I'm very happy that we are a cult. Just if I offer you Kool-Aid, don't drink it. Because it's probably got vodka in it or something. It'll be all right, guys. It'll be fine. And as always, you know what to do. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell because you want to know why. But that'd be awesome.